revenge game for Stephon against his old team. Jeremy Fowler wrote a long article about the divorce, which left the Bills with a $31 million dead cap charge, the largest ever for a wide receiver, so that's not good. A source said, for a while it was, no way can we play without this dude. But I thought to myself, oh, maybe we can do this without him. Well, okay. Doesn't seem that hard to unmask that source. I'm not going to try. Will Buffalo regret trading Stephon?
So I don't think they're going to regret trading Stephon. I do think they might regret not better replacing him or not being active in this all of a sudden percolating receiver market. So I think that the relationship had run its course, and I also thought the Bills getting younger, acquiring draft capital, cleaning up their books was something they needed to do. They went semi all in once they signed Von Miller. That was their we're going to try to win right now and take down the Chiefs. And they took a couple shots and missed, and so they reset a bit. I think they might be a little better than they thought they'd be already. And I think you know what I mean, that they're more, the young players on defense are replacing the veteran names we knew better, and that Josh has been, in most of the games, giving them everything you wanted them to give them. And I just worry that against the best teams, particularly the best defenses, you're going to need a guy who can go win. Yeah. Because listen, as great as Josh is, he isn't Patrick. And Patrick did also have Travis Kelce. You know what I mean? Who I understand and Dalton Kincaid's good and Dawson Knox is good. I get all that. They're not Travis Kelce. And so especially not playoffs Travis Kelce. So I'm not second guessing the trade. I will second guess a bit if they're as good as I think they're going to be over these next few weeks, if they stand pat at the deadline and don't add a number one or even a strong number two receiver.
You didn't like Diggs, right?
What do you mean?
Going the trade, you didn't think it was really valuable when
for Houston?
They made the trade. I thought you didn't like that.
For who? Didn't like it for who?
For Houston.
No, I don't. Yes, I agree with that piece of it as well, that I thought Diggs to Houston was not the needle mover that I think a lot of people thought it would be. Yes, which is why I don't think.
Well, though.
He is playing well.
He's sixth in the league in receptions.
But is that when you look at his catch percentage, so he's at 75.8. So his best year he was at 76.5. So he's a percent below that. And that year that he was at that rate, that's the year he had the 125 receptions, the 1,500 yards. And in terms of will they regret it? I think like any relationship, it comes to a point where it's time to separate. And he wouldn't be producing at this level in Buffalo. And the fact that he's got a new start and he's producing at the level that he is, I think is a function of a better situation for him. And from Buffalo's perspective, when you eat $30 million in dead money, it's not a regret type situation. It was a problem, and it becomes so detrimental to everybody that they had to make that move. So I think both parties are better apart. And we did this with the draft sometimes. We recognize someone's great. They're just not great for you.
No, I totally agree. I don't think they miss him one bit. And he has been good, better than I expected in Houston. Like, he's clearly become their number 2 receiver to Nico Collins, ahead of Tank Dell. And good for him, because maybe he'll get another contract somewhere with the way he's been playing. But I think they're just as good now without him as they would have been with him. I do agree with you, Nick. Look, I think as long as you have Josh Allen, you need to be going for it. And you get the Chiefs, even though their defense is better than it's been, you can at least look at them offensively and say, they're not where they used to be offensively. Maybe we can get them in this little stretch where they're not that great offensively. So I do think they should, like you saw my list yesterday for Devontae Adams, I think they should be going after him or some other receiver they can get, because as good as they are, they're not a contender. They have no explosive play. Like, they don't have a definitive number 1 receiver. James Cook has gotten like 80 yards in the last 2 games running the ball. Like, it's Josh Allen all the time. And so I think they should go get somebody else.
So if they are, maybe a year ahead or a few months ahead of their own perceived schedule on this, again, it wasn't a rebuild, but retooling, whatever it is. I believe the 3 best teams in the AFC are the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. We can argue about the order. Houston might have something to say about that, but at least historically with Cincinnati kind of falling off a bit this year, I think that's where we're at. if you are trying to measure up against Kansas City, if you're either of those teams, you're like, okay, we love our quarterback, but who has the best quarterback? Kansas City. Okay, we love our coach, but whose coach is the best of the three teams? Kansas City. We like or are okay with our defense, but whose defense is the best? Kansas City. In fact, who's kicker at this point now that Baltimore can't see check mark across the board? So you're going to have to attack it from somewhere else. Baltimore's philosophy was, okay, we're going to punch you in the damn mouth with one of the greatest running backs ever, and we're going to play a different style of football than most people play right now. I don't know what Buffalo's punch would be if they don't have a dude on the outside. You know what I mean? At least they could, if they did, and again, the Diggs trade I understood, even if I didn't think he would be great with Houston. And I think the catch percentage numbers is it's accurate, but I think a little misleading because when he was putting up those numbers, those were deep downfield passes a lot. And with Houston, he has been great.
He's only a yard off of his per catch.
Yards
average.
per catch. And again, we'll see how it works over the course of the year. But the Bills, I just think if you're going into a matchup with Kansas City, you'd like to have someone they have to account for on offense singularly other than Josh
Which
Allen.
I agree, and you never want to get rid of a great player. I don't think he would have been great for them.
I agree with that.
As talented as he is, as good as they've been.
It had kind of run.
Yeah, it had run its course, so he was no longer going to be what you're talking about for them anymore.
Coach, here's the numbers that we're talking about. Diggs last year and this year. This is like a little bit of a revenge game for him. Do you expect him, I'll just put it out there, those 2 touchdowns were the first game when we were all like, oh, Diggs is back. Do you expect the Texans to maybe run something special for him? There's certainly an emotional component. I don't think he can be iced out. What do you expect from him in this game?
I would imagine they'll give him something early, like a couple of plays early to try to get him going. And you'll do that with guys, and especially if it's an emotional game, you almost want to take the emotion out of it by getting him involved. And that can take a lot of different forms, whether you hand it to him, like a shuffle pass or something quick, something to get him into the game and over the emotion so he can just go play. And then also acknowledging how important it is to him to be successful.
Game ball time.
And by the way, thus up to this point, he has handled this really well. Yep. Those numbers to me are really telling because last year we didn't think was prime Stephon Diggs, and he agreed to a contract restructuring with Houston that makes him a free agent after this year. And so a lot of people thought, okay, you're going to get a motivated Stephon because it's his last chance to cash in. Those numbers you're not going to cash in it with. You're just not.
But you knew he wasn't going to be. Did you think there was a chance he'd be the number 1 receiver?
No, but I'm not sure he's going to finish the year the number 2. Nico Collins has elevated massively as well. Nico has production of a top 5 receiver this year, whether or not he's actually a top 5 guy or not. He is CJ's first and second read on most spots.
One of the great things that we had in New England is we could get players that had been the marquee guys somewhere else to come play for us and not have to be on the marquee anymore. Corey Dillon's a really good example of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then those players play such a huge role in your success, and there's almost a relief for them too, that they're not under pressure every single game to be the star, and it allows them to just go play, enjoy football, be part of something that's bigger than themselves, and then when that happens, you get something that's really special from those guys.
Okay. Before we go, join Fox that seems out of the mix. The champs. Kind of strange. Here's the Chiefs' offense this season. Still winning, but not lighting up the scoreboard per se. Had that long completion to Worthy, but still tied for 15th on long bombs. So are you surprised the Chiefs aren't in the mix?
Well, so I think that part of the reason the Chiefs aren't in the mix is the Raiders doing.
Right.
I think the Raiders not wanting to trade within the division. I also think Kansas City does not want to do anything drastic until they find out about Rasheed. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But if the Rasheed prognosis is 6 to 8 weeks, I don't think they'll trade for anyone.
It's been a long time not to get news on this.
I told you yesterday, they're not going to know till Monday.
What's going on?
That could be good.
But it could be good. It might not be good for the record. But On Monday, they're going to be able to find out. Okay. So, and so it is a long time, and it is incredibly odd. Which is why there is optimism. It's not a fully torn ACL because you can tell that instantly, but it could be partially torn and other damage that's just as bad, whatever it is. So I think